if you've got any interest in writing Google Ads scripts, I strongly recommend having a think about your development environment. And after 10 years of writing these scripts, and I've honestly written thousands of them, this is what I recommend to really speed things up. So the first thing is to install VS Code. Now, there are other IDEs available, obviously, and honestly, they're all really similar. So I would just maybe give this a go if you're not sure, but if you've got something else you prefer, then that's fine. A big part of using stuff like this is getting used to the keyboard shortcuts, like using Command P to sort of search for files and things like that. So it's worth looking up the keyboard shortcuts. The other thing you're going to need is Node, Node. Now Node is just, you literally Google Node installer, and then Mac or Windows, you're going to be able to download the file and install it. If you use Brew on Mac, you can also use that to install Node. I'm not going to talk you through installing it, but it's dead easy. And all it means is that you can run JavaScript in your terminal, essentially. And that also means you can create a JavaScript file which will then run in your terminal. So the good thing with Node is, out of the box, is once it's installed, you'll type Node in, enter, and then you've got this little playground. So sometimes there's just bits of syntax you can't quite remember, or you just want to test it. So for example, if I want to remind myself how the ternary operator works, I'm sort of going, is the question mark first or is the colon first? So I'll go const, let's call it pies. And then if it's true, then it's an apple pie. Otherwise, it's peach. And so now I can look at pies and say, okay, it's apple, that was right. So I can maybe grab this. That's an option. The other option for bits of quick code is something called Quokka. So if you go into extensions, search for Quokka, and it's this one. Just install it. And then once it's installed, I mentioned keyboard shortcuts earlier on. So for me, this is Shift Command P. I think it's Shift Control P if you're on Windows. It's going to open up the command palette. You can also press Command P, or I think Control P on Windows, and then type in a more than or a right arrow, and then this is your command. And then if you just search for Quokka, and then you want the new JavaScript file link. And then what this is going to do is, this is already running in the background now, and it's going to complete your sort of code, or tell you what the output will be. So again, const pies equals true, then it's apple, otherwise it's peach, and it's not doing it for me, is it? There you go. So now I can just type in pies, and it's going to tell me that the result is apple, and I don't have to console it. So as you can imagine, writing stuff like this can be incredibly fast. Just for some quick, does that work how I expected it to? Often what you'll do is you'll already have a function that you've written that maybe you'll copy, write some examples in just to get a really quick look at the output. I find this pretty helpful. So that's two things for sort of quick, I don't know, prototyping, testing, whatever you want to call it. The main thing you want to do though is create a file in here, call it main.js or whatever you want to call it, and then write as much as the script as you can in this file, and don't touch Google Ads until you absolutely have to. So you need your main function, because that will be expected in Google Ads, and let me just log hello. And then we'll have to run main at the bottom of the script. So most of our logic will go here and then within main. Okay, and then in our terminal, I'm going to create a new terminal. And then in this one, I can say node main.js. It's going to run this file, and it's going to say hello. But what's even better is you can say node --watch main.js. And then now, as I update this, this will immediately run. So for comparison, if I go into Google Ads, I've written a very similar script. Obviously in Google Ads, main runs automatically. And now it's logged Slowpoke. It took 8 seconds, which compared to this, so again, let me just show you. I had an exclamation mark and save. It's not even, I don't know, a tenth of a second. The difference is night and day, and the amount of time that you save is endless. And there's also, for me personally, sort of honestly, I can't sit here and wait 8 seconds. My mind starts to wander. And then I have to sort of come back and look, what was I doing again? And sometimes it's not 8 seconds, it's a minute or longer. So again, if you stay in this, even as this code gets really complicated and we start adding actual logic and examples, this is still going to run pretty much instantly. So I strongly recommend it. So what we can also do in VS Code is debug. So if you've ever used AppScript, which is a sort of separate to Google Ads scripts, but it's the same engine. It has a built-in debugger, which is pretty good, but it's not as good as the one in VS Code. So we can say const. I don't know. I've got pies on the mind. Steak, and then I'm going to say log the pie, and then. Imagining for a second this is some really complicated logic and I want to see what this value is at this point. What I can do is I can add a breakpoint and then I can go over to my debugger on the right hand side, create a launch.json file, and then we want node.js because that's what we're running. And it's going to do is it's going to use node, which is what we're running down here, to run the file, but it's going to stop at that breakpoint, and then we're going to be able to see what's going on. So in our launch file, it's actually done this automatically for us. It said the program is within our workspace folder, and it's main.js. And then the name is launch program. So all I like to do is copy the name of the file, and then that's the name of the configuration. So now up here we've got main.js. So I'll go back to main.js. I'll click debug, or you can press F5. And then now we can get to this point and see over here on our right hand side that pie is equal to steak. And again, imagine this is some really complicated logic where you're taking a search term and running it through loads of filters, lots of text checks, things like that. And this might be your result. And then all at the same time, you can see, okay, this is my result. And maybe down here somewhere, you'll have all of the inputs. And then you can say, okay, this all makes sense. What you'll also want to use a lot is watch. So within watch, you can actually watch pie and it'll show you what it is. And when you can also just add, as long as it can fit on one line, you can add as much code as you want in watch. So for example, if you're expecting pie to be steak, I might do this, and then you know that you always want that to be true. So it's something you can keep an eye on. And as soon as that's false, so for example, I'm gonna change that, and I'm gonna restart the debugger. Now I know it's false, and I might want to do something about that. There's a lot more you can do with this debugger, like you can step over and step through, and I recommend looking into it. It's beyond the scope of this video. The sort of 90% of the benefit you're going to get is what I've showed you. It's the fact that you can set a breakpoint, you can run the script to that breakpoint, you can restart and you can stop it, and you can see what's going on the right hand side. Down here, once you're done with your breakpoints, you can click the sort of double cross to get rid of them all. And that's largely it with that. So I'm not going to go into programming a script too much, but just to clarify what I mean when I say to stay out of Google Ads as much as possible. Let me show you an example a real example that I've been working on. And in fact, let me show you one more thing first. So if I just stop this and then find my terminal. So we've got this node watch running that I showed you earlier on. Now with anything like this, I think it's best to assume that you're going to forget what the command is. So something else you can also do is use a package.json file to sort of store commands. So to do that, you can do npm init and then -y. The -y just says, just give me the defaults, I'm not interested. and it's going to give you this package. And what we're interested in are these scripts. So I can call this node watch or whatever, and then it's equal to a command. And the command was node -- watch main.js. So I could also call it watch main, something like that. So now in the terminal, we can say npm run node watch, and it's going to watch it. And this just means that when you come back to this and all of your projects in 6 months' time, these commands might be a little bit different, and you just open up this package.json and then get a quick reminder of what you set up and what you need to run. You just need to remember the fact you need to type in npm run and then whatever the name is. Yeah, so that's useful too. I was going to show you my script. Here it is. So this is exactly the same as I've just shown you. This was a real script I was working on. And this is the main function. And I'm saying, okay, pretend I've got these fields and that's my report. This is more of a reminder for later. Some example search terms. So I've copied the names of the fields from the API and then just added some random data. This, by the way, is where Copilot comes in handy. I don't always love Copilot for the code that it gives me, but if you just want to say const example search terms, it's really good at filling that in. I've actually got it disabled right now. Enable completions. It's really good at filling that in for you. There you go. Then you don't have to faff about thinking of dummy data. But anyway, it's then going to take those search terms, process each search term here, and then it's going to new up this LLM class which I've created, and then it's going to get a response, and then based on the response it's going to run one of two functions. And none of this does anything. All it's doing is it's saying when I've got a positive response, it's going to create a row that will eventually log to the sheet. So I can see what the row is down here, and that's what would be logged to the sheet. And it's just going to say adding negative keyword medical autoclaves in this example. So obviously, again, it's just a log. It's not doing anything. But I can look at all of this script and say to myself, okay, when this returns no, does this look like I expect it to? And again, I can change it to yes, save, instantly populates this, and now it isn't trying to add a negative keyword. It's just saying we've got a positive action, logging the response, and then this is the row that it's going to log to the sheet. So we're not involving Google Ads, we're not involving Sheets, it's all local. And only when I'm really confident everything's working as I expect, and I can literally just go in and add a log to a sheet, add the logic to actually add the negative keyword, which is simple enough, then I'll go, okay, it's time to go into Google Ads and actually add that functionality. And what you also might want to do is I'm going to need a function that takes a negative keyword. So it's process response or process search term, maybe. One of these two. Sorry. Yeah. So it's going to take that negative keyword and it's going to add it as a negative keyword. So I'm going to need a function that takes a negative keyword. It's going to also need a campaign ID and an ad group ID, and it's going to add the negative keyword. So for that, I'll just create a new file and call it add neg to ad group. Like that. And by the way, I wouldn't actually put neg, I would put negative. I don't like to shorten things. So then it's the same thing. Function main. This time we won't call it because we need Google Ads to run this. But then we can just say function add negative to ad group. And then we know it's the negative keyword, campaign ID and ad group ID. And then at this point, you know, you probably want to use the documentation or go into Google Ads. This is the one time I use Google Ads quite a lot, or at least the editor. So if I go ads app dot, you know, my editor doesn't know what's going on. Ads app doesn't exist. So I'm pretty sure it's keywords, blah, 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 or maybe it'll be ad groups with IDs. This looks good. But if you don't have Copilot, Not to mention Copilot isn't always very good. We're going to go into Google Ads and we can just say ads at dot and then get a reminder of what we need. So we're going to go ad groups dot and then we're going to want with IDs and then dot get. So there you go. That's giving me essentially all I need for this. And then all I'll do is I'll add some dummy data. Hopefully this will fill it in for me. That's not great. So negative keyword, campaign ID, iGroup ID, and then add negative keyword to iGroup, pass those in. Now, when we're testing this, if these don't exist, this is going to say error, which honestly is fine, because then we might think to ourselves, okay, we have to handle this being empty, maybe throw a different error that we understand. Then we can pass in real IDs and make sure that this works. And it just means that we run this in Google Ads, it will run really quickly versus running an entire script. And then we want to try and break it by, like I say, passing the wrong IDs, passing a number instead of a string, for example, for the keyword. Make sure this is robust. Then we just copy this, put it in our script with confidence that we can pass in a keyword and then our IDs, and it's going to do the job. And as part of that, and I'm really getting into, I don't know, design patterns and things, it helps if your functions do as little as possible. So this is only going to add a negative keyword to an ad group. That's all it does. Be careful not to start putting all of this logic in a parent function, which is also, for example, getting the IDs. This should only do one thing, and that enables you to test it really easily in Google Ads. And obviously, you can create an array of keywords and IDs which all feed into this, and then you can test 10 different examples at the same time and just check that it's what you expected based on the changes tab. I could go on forever, but that's already, 17 minutes long video. Hopefully that was useful. And if anyone, of this 9 people that will watch this, especially to the end, any questions, leave it in the comments and I can always do some more videos. Thanks.